Hey everybody, welcome to a very special edition of Young Bucks. This is the season finale of 2017. What an awful year. That's what everybody's saying on social media. I thought 2016 was the worst my life would ever get. Apparently 2017 is even worse. Can't wait for 2018. I'm Andrew Hall. To my left, you are right, Sam Frost. Also got Matt Krebsbach.
What up?
And Ben Nye. Ben.
Hey.
So we're going to recap really quickly. Actually, that's boring. Let's just lay it all out there. We made a bunch of predictions at the beginning of the year. We kind of crushed it. We're not going to waste your time with that. But we nailed a lot of stuff. I mean, among the things we nailed were that there'd be no change to Obamacare. Just as a one-off example of the many things we got exactly right. Check that out on the YouTube archives, youtube.com/Tusk Media LLC. You can find all that good stuff. We're just going to jump in. 2018 predictions. This is the entire show. We're going to roll through these and talk about them and maybe even have Greg track these. And at the end of next year, we're going to give out a championship belt or a turnover chain or something like that for whoever remembers to do this. Not so much whoever gets the most right, but whoever remembers to do it. So jumping right in, first things up, let's talk economies. Let's talk about the downside to them. Will we have a recession from a major OECD economy in 2018? Ben, I'm going to jump off with you because I know you like to make predictions on wild things like what will happen to Belize, all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about major economies. What are we looking for?
Yeah, so one of the big storylines this year is that no country in the OECD, which is the biggest developed countries, had a recession in 2017. And in fact, a lot of them actually had accelerating growth. But if I open my booklet here, I see that, and I was actually debating between two countries on this one. The first was, both are actually extremely levered to very large economies. And both also have a lot of commodity exposure, and both have a lot of real estate exposure as well. However, I did not choose Australia. Instead, I chose Canada, and the reason is because the second thing, if you write into Google Canada real estate, is Canada real estate bubble. So you have
Google Trends.
You have the threat of a massive real estate bubble in Canada. You have commodities that continue to be weak. You have very difficult comps. Canada posted 3.3% GDP growth in the latest quarter. So that's going to be difficult to comp over. And then on top of that, you have the tariffs, and I think that's only going to get worse as the Republicans want to dig in their heels and stick to what got them elected in the first place. So I think Canada, the outlook is actually a lot bleaker than people would think, and I actually think they could slip into recession. Not a big one, but they could have negative growth for 2 quarters in a row.
There we go. Krebs, what you got, big guy?
I'm going to say, well, I'm going to respond to Ben's. I'm going to say there isn't going to be one. But if I had to say there is going to be one, I would say Australia, just because your Chinese rationale. I think for Canada, for them to get in a recession, I mean, you mentioned the tariffs, which I agree with, but I don't think that'd be enough in isolation to put them in a recession. I think for that to happen, they would need to have a collapse in oil prices, and I don't really see that happening with OPEC maintaining those cuts. I think throughout 18, right? They've already announced it's through 18. So I don't think you'd see a cut there. But for my answer to the question, I'm going to say no, there isn't going to be one in 18.
My leaning is no, and if we had to have one, I was going to put Italy just because I felt like people were going to put Australia and Canada because of the natural resources tie, and I wanted to go, like, if you're going to throw the Hail Mary, throw it to the tall guy. And so I think it's a tall order to expect Italy to really move the needle one way or the other. So I'm saying no. I do think you're going to have to start this time next year. I think we're talking about a really different narrative because I do think we're going to see some slowing of this period of, synchronized global expansion that everybody loves to talk about. I do think it's going to look a little bit less sexy compared to what it looks like right now.
I was just going to say, it's pretty remarkable. This would be the second year in a row then that we would have no OECD country with having a recession. The last time that happened was 2006. So, I mean, that's a long time.
You know what happened 2 years after that.
Man, we all know. Sam, what you got?
So I think, I was thinking when I saw this question, I was like, it's bold to call out one of these companies and say, I think that they're going to have a recession, but I almost think it's even more bold to say there won't be one. Kind of like to Ben's point, the last time that happened was 2006. However, I think we have a lot of the same story that we had in 2006 right now. You have strong global growth, strong global economy. It's not just the U.S. who's doing well. And I was just thinking, the definition of a recession is 2 quarters in a row that of shrinking GDP. And so I don't know, like, so that means like 50% of the quarters next year have to be down. And I just think like right now it's pretty strong. Economy is pretty strong running into next year. I think the first quarter next year you're not going to see contraction. And so then we're down to only 3 quarters left. You got to have 2 in a row.
Yeah, that's like 66% of the remaining quarters.
And kind of like you talking about Italy, I actually thought if there was a potential recession, I was actually thinking you might see, this is going to be bold, but like Germany or the UK. The UK simply with the Brexit stuff, assuming that they just don't get trade negotiations in place and everything just hits the fan. They could struggle. Germany, the EU. If that thing falls apart, I think they're really going to struggle. The only thing is, they're not going to struggle, but like they have the most to lose, since they're the central kind of, engine in the EU. But that's going to take longer than just the next 12 months for that to really unravel. So I don't really see that happening this year.
But at the same time, I think that we're actually a lot closer to recession in a lot of these economies than we would actually think. Like, I think that the UK economy is growing at about 1%. Mexico actually shrunk in Q3.
Is Mexico in that bucket?
Yeah, Mexico's in that bucket.
All right, I'm changing my answer to Mexico.
And are you a yes that it will go?
Yeah, I'm going
Oh,
yes.
that's
Yes,
big.
Mexico's hitting a recession.
Caramba!
Well, once they start building the wall, that's just going to improve GDP, right?
We'll see.
Bad joke.
We'll leave that in. So you're going to Mexico. I'm going no, but if yes, Italy. You're going no, but if yes, Germany or the UK.
Yeah, most.
Canada.
I'm going yes, Canada.
All right. There we go. Moving on, kind of along those lines of the economic outlook, I think we could probably just go over-under on this one. Will the Fed raise rates? I'm taking 2 off the board. So will they raise it more or less than 2.5 times? The over-under is 2.5. We're going to get 3 or we're going to get less? What are we thinking?
So bear in mind the Fed expects 3 rate hikes next year.
And bear in mind they expected 4 last year, and I said 3, and 3 happened.
And bear in mind
I
the
don't know if you guys
year
remember
before that, didn't they? What did they guide? And they didn't raise until like December.
Yeah.
So.
And the year before that, none.
Yeah.
So.
And they nailed that one. They nailed that one.
A lot of data points here, Ben. What you got?
I say they're going to raise twice, so I'm taking the under on it.
Keep in mind, Ben also missed this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Ben's the bullish one on interest rates here. I'm going over.
I'm going over.
They're going to hit 3.
I'm going over.
I'm going over as well. I thought about this with the.
What did you say? I said over.
With the Fed thinks 3, and so I was like, well, it seems like they always like guide a little higher than what they actually do, almost just preparing the market for higher interest rates. But a big thing happened about a couple hours before we started this, and that is that the tax reform bill, the House and Senate agreed on a bill, and I think if that does spur the economy the way that at least the Republicans think it will, then the Fed might feel the need to tighten a little bit quicker, and so in their eyes, if they guide to 3, I think 2 is a good guess. Now the economy speeds up a little bit. I think they hit 3.
That's good analysis.
So I'm the bear on the panel. Bear on recession, bear on.
Bearish.
My reason for that is like it's the tax bill. Like if if you start getting spending from all these different things, the inflation's got to pick up and the Fed's gonna react.
Yeah. The biggest variable is we got the new Fed guy coming in.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I mean, part of me feels like you're not going to come in and totally buck the trend. And if the trend is saying, hey, in general, we're guiding for 3 interest rate hikes, you're one of that in a period in which you are getting presumably tax cuts that are presumably helping the economy, at least in theory. And you've got global synchronized growth. There's something pretty darn close to it. It's hard to see them not hitting that benchmark of 3 for me.
Yeah, at least starting off on that track.
Yeah,
I mean, almost the biggest risk is maybe they hit 2 out real quick or whatever before they needed it or something, then they just never get to the third one.
Hot take here: the tax bill causes the next recession.
Ooh, that's
late
a hot
late
take.
18, early 19.
That is a hot take. Stay tuned to find out.
So, Krebs, yes, there will be a recession next year in the U.S.
Will Bitcoin continue to soar or plummet? I'm saying yes. I think we're gonna have like ridiculous run-ups and ridiculous rundowns. I don't think.
Can we change that one to what Ben proposed yesterday? Is it going to hit 10,000 or 100,000 first?
Sure. I'll take 10,000.
10,000.
Ben, go ahead.
I say 100,000.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. I was sneezing.
I think
You went 100.
I think I'll lean to 100 as well. I think it'll be real quick back down to 10 though. I think once you see 100, that's going to be that's when you start seeing the bubble stuff because banks and institutions are getting involved. The stuff that you need for it to be like a real bubble.
I mean, that's a huge jump to 100.
You're gonna see
That
a
is a
short
huge
squeeze
jump.
like you've never seen before. Believe me.
I'm going with Andrew at 10. I think that's.
I mean, keep in mind.
I
I
think-
mean,
I
we're
think-
we're at 16,000 now. We were at 2,000 just a couple months ago, a few months ago.
We had 10,000 in a couple more months.
I mean, I think, but that could just goes to show. I mean, 16,000 to 100,000 is less than. I mean, what's that? 6 times?
Yeah. The only thing is the volatility in it is so wild. It could literally hit 10,000
For a
and
minute.
then be up to 50,000 like within a month, easily.
I mean, you guys definitely have the hype on your side. Like, there's so much like backing it with. I mean, us talking about it as an example.
I do.
Just major media outlets talking
when
about
people talk
Bitcoin.
about short squeezes, it's tough to actually see that play out. But everybody you see on TV is like, I would have shorted Bitcoin. I would have lost a lot of money. I'd be shorting Bitcoin, and they're all wanting to short Bitcoin. And I don't know. That's a lot of money for a short squeeze.
A lot of Bitcoins.
A lot of Bitcoins.
Next up, which Dow component will have the best year in 2018? Sam, I'm going to start with you. We're just going all over the place.
Yeah. So I had Goldman. I know they ran up a good bit here lately, so I think it's kind of a bold call, but the data that I've seen at least has shown that M&A's activity picks up when valuations get high. It's completely non-intuitive, but if we're predicting no recession for the U.S. next year, valuations are continue to track up. You got tax rate cuts. I see M&A picking up, and I think Goldman's going to reap the benefits.
Krebs.
I got Merck.
Getting
That's
merged.
big. Yep.
Getting merged.
Shout about them too.
This is kind of like a low-key Dow component. It's not something you think of. I mean, not many people know what it is. It's a pharmaceutical company. They have a lot of big studies coming out for their biggest cancer drug or highest growth cancer drug in Keytruda. So I'm hoping for, maybe it's a better terminology, I'm hoping for positive results there. I think you'd get a really nice bump because they've been 2070 has been that good for them because they kind of took some registrations off the table to kind of improve the designations for it, and I think you'll kind of get a whipsaw back in 18, hopefully.
Ben?
So I was very close to picking GE actually, because and the reason I thought GE because I think it's been pummeled, and right now it actually trades at a reasonable valuation on hugely depressed earnings, and trades at about 16 times earnings, 15 times earnings, and I think earnings could easily accelerate to the upside. Having said that, it's a bit inconsistent with my call to be a little more bearish, so I'm actually going with Apple because I think that they could have a new re-rating to a higher level, and I think you could see a $240 stock next year.
I had GE for basically every reason Ben just mentioned. They're actually cheap. I think if we have a market that kind of continues to trudge upward, people are going to continue to look for something that appears to be stable, large blue chip, familiar name. I think money will come in there, and we'll start to get one valuation will improve, and I think we'll see some earnings trend reversal there as well. So I've got GE as my pick. For the year, kind of along those lines, we've talked about the companies we think will win in the Dow. Will the S&P 500, which is the equity benchmark we use for U.S. stocks just because it's most similar to what we manage, will the S&P 500 post a negative return for the year or positive return for the year? Starting with you, Krebs.
I'm going. Man, I didn't answer this one back there. I was gonna do a toss up by sub. I have no idea. I'm gonna go down. I think it's gonna probably like trend up. I think back half 18. I don't know. We're way past due for a correction.
So this really domes me up. Like everything we've talked about, I've been pretty bullish on. But I constantly think to everything you see on TV and the media and just all the news, and ever since Trump got elected, everyone said, get out of the market. Market's doomed. You're just throwing your money away if you're in the market. And the market's went just floating up. And here as the end of the year is rolling around, you keep seeing more and more people on TV getting more and more bullish. And that momentum will carry it for a while. And people turn the TV on and they're like, hey, you should buy GE, or hey, you should buy Goldman, you should buy this company. And people are just going to take the word for it. And it's like, oh, the market's just been running up. I'm just going to follow. And that's what creates bubble territory. That's what creates the opportunity for corrections. But all that being said, I think it takes a while for that bubble to really materialize and for that correction to happen. And I see the market being positive next year.
How much? Do you have a number?
Like 7.5. If I had to throw a number out, I would say
Like low single digits or something?
I would say low double digits. I would go like 10 to 12%, I think, if I had to throw a number out there.
I've got the market up. To put a number on it, I would say bottom 3/4 of single digits. I don't think we're gonna touch double digits. I think I could see anything 2, 3, 6%.
Kind of like 20.
Yeah.
Was it 2014?
I think. Yeah.
2014 was a good year.
2015 then.
Yeah, 2015.
Yeah, one of those years is like 2%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2015.
Yeah, 2015 was basically all dividends. I
Dividends.
think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I actually have it being down.
That's big.
Wow.
Back.
Wow.
But I'm a little bit different than Krebs. I actually think that we could have a meaningful correction in the first half of the year, through the summer almost, and then we actually recover through the end of the year, but it's not quite enough. So, yeah, I think S&P 500 is going to be down on the year.
See, I almost think I definitely see what you're saying. I think if we had the correction at the beginning of the year, which I think is possible, but I think we would recover quickly.
Yeah, I do.
Just
I do
because the market has been trained. You've seen it with the 2 corrections in 2015. The market's just been trained to buy the dips. I could almost see it if the market ended up down, the correction being at the back half of the year, and it's just like, bam, see ya, 15%.
See, I don't think it's a dip though. I think we go down 5%, 5%, 5%, just like throughout the first half, and people just kind of look at themselves and say, man, we got these tax cuts. We might actually be getting infrastructure spending, and the market's down, and the just selling exacerbates. Like if the market can't go up now, this is going to be a big recession. And then I think you just have this, and say you kind of have a revaluation and to more sensible valuations, and then you move on from there. So that's my hypothesis.
That's a good point. I just think in 17 you had a lot of the hype getting built in, like decreased regulation helping all the bank stocks. You have interest rates finally getting up, helping a lot of the bank stocks. You have, basically a tax bill now. You pretty much know what it's going to be coming through. Like, what else are you going to point to? Like,
Yeah.
you get a correction down to 5%. Like, oh, we have all this stuff now. What else is there?
Buy on rumor, sell on fact.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go. Switching gears a little bit to some political chatter here. Democrats, are they going to take control of the Senate at the midterm elections in 2018? I'm going no here. I'm just throwing that out there.
What does 50-50 count as? Is that taking control?
Not taking control.
Is that a wash then for next year's purposes?
Yeah, we tie if we get a 50-50. So I'm saying no. Obviously this is being recorded fresh on the heels of Roy Moore's defeat, which I think was a defeat of a pedophile more so than a big Democratic win. It's tough to find. I said this earlier to Ben. For somebody to win, like Democrat versus Republican, you got to find people that are real upset that they lost. And you can't really find many of those Republicans right now. So I think that's a little bit of an outlier of a race. We've seen a number of, kind of quote unquote swing district races here locally that, everybody gets really excited about, pours a whole bunch of money into. But the actual outcome is relatively the same as what we've been seeing historically. So I don't think there's quite as much anti-Trump revolution there, especially if Democrats continue to roll out candidates that are unbelievably liberal. They got to find some moderates, and they're not doing that.
I
Sam?
actually have the Dems taking control. I think people in politics have short memories. It's what have you done for me now? And I think that's one of the tricky things about politics is you want to make decisions that are beneficial in the long run. But it's all about what have you done me now? And the short answer for that is how much money have I made in the stock market right now? How much money am I bringing home right now because wages are going up or whatever? And kind of on the backs of what we're talking about with the market going up or down or whatnot, I don't see another 20 or 30% year coming in 2018. I think it's going to be easy for the Democrats to, throw out all the campaign crap that they do, and that sounded bad. All the campaign stuff that they do or whatever.
All the crap that everybody does.
Politics.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know. I think the Dems can take it. Yeah.
See, I think the Republicans internally are thinking, we're going to be easily able to hold on to the Senate because if you look at 2012, this is when Barack Obama ran for re-election. He got out a lot more people to vote than, say, in a midterm like 2010, for instance. However, I'm actually saying the Democrats are going to take control because I think that I think that the Republicans just aren't going to do as much as they need to in order to preserve. They haven't done what they said they would do. And I think that disappoints Republicans, depresses that turnout, and I think Democrats turn out in droves because they don't want to have what happened in 2016 happen in 2018 as well.
I think the Democrats will take the Senate for pretty much everything you said. I am worried that with Roy Moore losing, you're going to have a lot of Republican voters or conservative voters actually hit the ballots now, and that being enough. You know what I'm trying to say?
For sure.
There's
wake-up call.
They're afraid that oh no, we're not going to hold the Senate next year.
Yeah, we got to get our pedophiles back in there.
Yeah, we got to keep our guys in there. So you're going to keep have a stronger show out.
Yeah, and I just wonder, sorry to cut you off, but
No,
to
that's
Ben's
fine.
point about turnout not being super high on the Republican side because nothing really's been accomplished. I mean, I wonder if that could hurt both sides in the sense that if you think you're voting against Trump and the Trump administration as a Democrat, I don't know what you're actually voting against other than the person, because there hasn't actually been much that's accomplished. So I don't feel like there's been the broad sweeping legislation that's really ticked people off, maybe the way Obamacare did for conservatives. So I don't know that you're going to get it. I think turnout could actually be relatively low, which is maybe not what we expect in such a polarized political environment.
It's going to be interesting because, kind of piggybacking on what Ben said, I think a lot of Republicans are really mad about what the Republicans have not accomplished this year. You had a Goldilocks scenario. You had the House, you had the Senate, you had the president. You could have pushed through anything you wanted, and the only thing that they pushed through is this tax reform bill. And it took,
Which still isn't
it's
not done.
It's not even official yet, but it's the first thing that they've actually agreed on. It's the first major thing that they've done. And so my question is, do Republicans get mad and say, why am I going to vote for somebody who's not going to do what I asked them to do, and they just vote independent? Maybe they don't jump all the way to the other side, or do they say, I just can't bring myself to vote for a Democrat or an independent or something like that. I don't know what the answer is, but
yeah, I just have a hard time. If you're a Republican, whether you voted for Trump or not, I would think most of them wanted to vote in opposition to the Obama administration, whether that was a direct vote for Trump or just vote for anybody other than Hillary Clinton in the general in 2016. That's still a relatively fresh way of thinking. I mean, we're basically talking, at this point, who knows what's accomplished between now and next November, which is 11 months off. But I just don't know that they're going to totally abandon that. And I don't see a lot swing over to voting for a third party or voting, especially not voting Democratic.
I do think though you miss out on a lot of all those Democrat voters who ended up going Republican, winning the steel towns, the mining districts, et cetera. I think they say, we wanted a change. We didn't get the change. I'm going back to what I did before.
But I think most of those districts are actually I think the big surprise there was that they swung away from traditional Democratic voting practices by electing a Republican president. So I don't know that that's really going to be a swing. I don't know that for a fact. I haven't actually looked at that impact, but I don't know how big of a swing, so to speak, that would be from the norm. Next up, speaking of Trump, the Trump administration, lots of turnover. I was reading an interesting article about turnover in his staff compared to others. How many of Trump's administration are going to be fired or resigned? This is really, really tough. I don't know if anybody has a number. I don't know if we want to set an over-under on this. I just have written down lots.
Let's do over-under at like 5.
Over-under. Let's do over-under 5.5. I'm going over.
How many people are technically in his administration?
24.
Definitely going over.
I'm taking under.
I'm going under. I think they have a lot. They've had a lot of house cleaning already. I mean, you have to have a lot, even more turnover, which isn't out of the question. But
So I have 6, and I actually identified them.
Oh, let's go.
Oh boy.
So I think Ben Carson is done.
Yeah.
I think Wilbur Ross is going to be done. I think that he end up overstepping. I think Jeff Sessions is done. I thought he was going to be done a lot sooner than that.
He's not already
He
done.
looks like a dead man walking right now. I think Rex Tillerson.
Yeah.
I mean, he has way too many
He's
headlines
been rumored
already.
to be done for a while.
John Kelly, there was a big article talking about how Trump relies on John Kelly for absolutely everything. I think anyone who Trump relies on for absolutely everything gets exhausted very, very quickly. I don't think Kelly makes it past 2 years. And the last one, Mike Pompeo, he's at the CIA. I think there's so much going on at the CIA that we don't know about. And especially with all these scandals and stuff going on, I think that he would be an excellent fall guy at some point.
so, for like Jeff Sessions, what does he do? Let's say he gets canned or resigns, or whatever. Is he just like
Just chilling out, man.
what does he do? Like, so he left his senator spot in Alabama, and now he's just like, oh, I don't have a job.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him get canned or leave or whatever in time to run for.
Just run again.
Yeah, he'll do that. He'll make it happen. Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions, isn't that his name? I think it is. So moving on to what everybody's here for, which is the sports predictions. First things up, we got the World Cup coming up. I know everybody here is big soccer fans like myself. Let's talk a little bit about Russia. We dodged them mostly when we were talking about major economies. We ignored them when we were talking about politics. Let's talk about them in the context of football. Will they make it out of pool play in the World Cup? I'm going no.
I got no.
I mean, their pool is so weak. Like, it's an absolute joke that they got put in that pool. Like, it has to be rigged. And in that same vein, I'm thinking I'm going to say, yeah, they will get out because it's rigged.
Yeah, I mean, it's FIFA. It's not a question they go through. And I think they go through all the way to the semis.
Wow.
Come on.
No, South Korea made the semis when they hosted in 2002. Japan made the quarterfinals that same year. I mean, South Korea, no one was talking about. South Africa actually got third in their group. They had a terrible team. Brazil made the semis last year. Germany won it in 2006. France won it in 98. I mean,
those are some of the best teams in the world, though.
okay, but South Korea?
Except South Korea.
I mean, Japan? I mean, the U.S. in 94? I mean, that U.S. hasn't done anything since that time.
That's just the American spirit, though. That's what that is.
I mean, I think
Soccer's the future.
I think Russia, by literally hook or by crook, they go through.
All right, there we go. Somebody track this because there's no way I'll remember that. Winter Olympics coming up, 2018 Winter Olympics. Russia not participating, which is whatever. But in fairness, they won the most medals at the last Olympics, so the last Winter Olympics. So, what country is going to win the most medals, total medals? I've got Norway.
Most medals, I'm going to go with the U.S.
Yeah, I think it has to be the U.S., right?
Yeah, I'm going the U.S.
All right, there we go. Norway was
Norwegian
second
Andrew
in the
over
last Winter Olympics. So, Norway trailed Russia. There we go. Last up, that was 9 total predictions we've done. Number 10 is a random college football prediction. Everybody can do whatever they want. It can be related to the playoff that's upcoming. It can be related to bowl season upcoming or next year's season. And I've got my hot take ready.
Let's hear it.
Wisconsin's going to lose 5 games next year.
That's big.
Fan this guy off. Flaming hot. They're going to actually play a few teams that are ranked. They have to play at Iowa, which is
It's a tough game.
tough game. They've got to play a feisty, what was it, Western Kentucky team, BYU on the schedule, and then just their normal
New Mexico.
Yeah, New Mexico, their normal week slate of Big Ten games, but they'll trip up against somebody, and they'll do it 4 more times. Krebs, what you got?
Auburn wins by a minimum of 3 touchdowns when they play Washington to open the season next year. I mean, that's a no-brainer, but
I don't think that's not even a hot take.
yeah, I know, but that's my hot take.
Ben, what you got?
Well, first of all, I'll take the other side to that bet if you want to do that. By the way, Krebs and I bet on the election yesterday, and I won. So
Hot streak.
That is
you
true.
know, 1 for 1 here. But I would say I was going to say no Pac-12 team will make it to the national championship Final Four.
Given.
But I don't know. I kind of want to say Big Ten, but no Pac-12 team will make it to the Final Four for the 2nd year in a row.
That's not a hot take.
I think it's a hot take. For me, that's a pretty
That's
hot
like
take.
the 3rd or 4th year in a row, I feel like.
No, Washington made it last year.
They're not real.
So, but also I wanted to ask Andrew his hot take on where Jacob Eason goes
My leader right now is Washington State.
with Mike Leach.
I would say number 1 is Washington State. Number 2 is he just stays, rides the pine, and goes pro after next year. So there you go. Sam, what you got, man? Hot take.
Well, hold on. Who would draft him if he hasn't played a college game in like 2 years?
I think I'd spend a 6th or 7th round pick on him. I think a lot of people would, because they draft quarterbacks basically off the combine. So, like, that's everything. Like Southern Cal had this precedent where they would have like guys that didn't even start get drafted, like Matt Castle and that kind of
I mean,
stuff.
you don't think it's better for him to go to like
I think it would
Central
be better
Michigan
for
and
him.
just like tear it up?
Yeah, I think that would be better for him. But
He won't do it.
like, if let's say you're Georgia and you either win the national championship or make it to the championship or whatever, you're like, man, this is pretty fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time. I've still got as much talent as I had before, but we've obviously got like a good system quarterback in here. Still got like the talent. I don't think it's the dumbest thing in the world just to hang around.
Who's that kid who got drafted after playing like 5 games last year?
Yeah, like Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
I would draft Jacob Eason over Mitch Trubisky 1,000 times out of 10.
Would he go to Cleveland?
Yes.
Johnny Manziel went to Cleveland.
People forget that. Frosty. Hot take.
My hot take's nowhere near as interesting as y'all's. I have Alabama. I have Alabama winning the national championship.
Whoa.
Next year.
So you don't think they'll have to play Oklahoma?
Yeah. So I think Alabama will play Clemson. An earlier take of this, I thought that Alabama would play Oklahoma first and Georgia would play Clemson. I think Alabama can handle Clemson. I really didn't think Georgia could handle Clemson because I think Clemson's a really good school. They played a really good program. They played a bunch of good football games, big football games over the past couple of years. However, Alabama has 2. I think Alabama can beat Clemson. I think Georgia can beat Oklahoma. And then I think if it comes down to Alabama, Georgia, I think it's going to be Alabama.
I hope it does as a Georgia fan. I just think it'd be awesome to see, like, I mean, Alabama's kind of like Georgia's minor league team. It's like where all Georgia's like good coaches get their start and kind of, you know, make their way as, little fawns going across the yard, and then they develop into real deer, real bucks, and
That
then
makes
come to Georgia.
that makes so much sense.
So
It's
it'd be awesome. It's just a unique opportunity. It'd be like if the Braves, like the Atlanta Braves, played the Gwinnett Braves in the World Series. Like they played their minor league team. It'd be pretty awesome. So it'd be pretty cool if we played
so
that.
the only thing that I have to go off of is that Alabama and Georgia both played Auburn. They both got embarrassed by Auburn, and I think we'll both say we're flukes. Georgia has proved that it was a fluke because then they stomped Auburn. I think if Alabama played Auburn again, I think the scores would be similar that the Georgia-Auburn game was. If not, Alabama might have a wider spread. And so that's literally my only basis for Alabama over
They
Georgia.
both played Mississippi State too, though.
That's true, and that tells
People
you
forget.
nothing.
We stomped Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Alabama did not.
That's true.
So there you go. All right, that's what we got. 10 predictions. We're going to track every single one of them, do an update every single week on each of them. Not really. Y'all have a great holiday season. We're going to be back in January with lots of episodes, and y'all enjoy the break from us.
Tusk Media is a subsidiary of Narwhal Capital Management. Ratings and reviews of Tusk Media content are not to be construed as endorsements of opinions, analysis, or services offered by Tusk or its parent company. The opinions and predictions shared here are our professional beliefs at the time of publication. We are not under duress from any of the corporate entities mentioned. This is not a solicitation to take any particular action. Although we are investment advisors, this information should not be considered investment, legal, or tax advice. We strive to be as impartial, insightful, and accurate as possible. We base our opinions, analysis, and calculations on information we believe to be reliable, but we cannot guarantee its accuracy. We can, however, guarantee that our opinions will sometimes be flat out wrong due to a variety of factors. Employees and clients of Narwhal Capital Management may or may not hold positions in the securities detailed and may or may not hold these positions in the future. A full list of all securities purchased, sold, or held during the 12 months preceding the date of this publication can be provided upon request. Unless otherwise noted, all data accessed via MarketWatch or the Bloomberg terminal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. A copy of Narwhal's Form ADV is available at the SEC's website, www.advisorinfo.sec.gov, or from Narwhal upon written request.